and welcome to the Cheer Up Podcast, the new year for the Cheer Up Podcast. And with me, as always, is the beautiful and lovely Sherry Swalwell. How is 2023 going for you, Sherry?
It is going great. Happy New Year, Kara. Can you believe it? 2023 already? Wow.
Doesn't that sound odd? It's like 2023?
Yeah.
It's like, wow. It's just like, I don't know. It sounds futuristic, but it's actually present time.
I know. In a sense, I
Yeah.
kind of feel like I'm still in 2020, like the start of the double digits or the start of the new decade or whatever. But yeah,
I know.
we're into the new decade. That is just crazy.
I know, right? It's just like, when you say it, it just sounds, I don't know. It sounds very futuristic to me. And I don't know if you remember, okay. So I was a child. So this would have been in the 70s, maybe. There used to be a television show that my mom used to watch called 1999, I think it was called. But it was like very futuristic. And it just was like, what? Like, way back in then, that's like so many years in the future right now. Like, 1999 is just like so not going to happen, or something like that. It's like so future. It just sounded like so far in the future. Well, of course, I was a kid, and everything sounded way into the future then. But now, when you think about like how we're so past 1999,
I know. We got married in 1999. I got married in 1999.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, wow. See, that's what I'm saying. And it's like, oh, my goodness. So you got married in 1999. So do you remember was that in the midst of the whole Y2K thing?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, yes.
We got married in April, and then that whole Y2K thing happened, what would that be? I don't know, 24 years ago now, because it was right around, or it was the whole New Year's Eve thing. So we were newlyweds, and I was newly pregnant. We had our first child in 2000. We had just announced that I was pregnant to our friends and our family at Christmas time that year in 1999. Crazy.
Oh my goodness, right? And so it's like, so you guys are probably wondering, like, oh my goodness, or the hospital's gonna still be able to do stuff? Because remember, the Y2K craziness was just like, all the computers are going to shut down. You're not going to be able to do this. You're not going to be able to buy groceries. You're not going to be able to, because everything's run by computer and chips now, and Y2K is not going to be able to handle the new year switching from 1999 to 2000. I mean, remember all that madness?
Oh, I do. I had in the banking company or banking industry and relatives that they had to work New Year's Eve because everybody thought that there was going to be a catastrophe.
Right. That's what I'm saying. It was like, and it's like one of those crazy things. And now we all look back and we just kind of do what we're doing. We're like giggling, like, really? Were we that, paranoid about that? And I remember talking to my grandmother. She just turned 99. But back then she wasn't 99. So, but in 1999, I'm not sure how old she was. But I remember talking to her back then, and, and she was just kind of lamenting, like, I don't know what these people are getting all upset about. And I'm like, well, Grandma, that's because we may not be able to buy food. We may not be able to do this. We may not be able to do that. And she was just kind of like, tisk, tisk, right? She was like, people did live before grocery stores. And she's like, and I know how to garden. Okay. she's like, if you can't get food at the grocery store, then you garden. And she always had a beautiful vegetable garden, and flower garden, but she had wonderful vegetables. And, and just stuff that she would always grow. And she's like, and I'm like, well, Grandma, not everything can be grown, right? I was like, just simple things like soap or something. She's like, yeah, she goes, you make your own soap. We used to do it all the time. And she's just like all that stuff that people are freaking out about, you just do it yourself. And I was just thinking, that is crazy. Like, in this new generation, have we completely lost all of that? Like, are we so used to our conveniences that we don't even know how to make stuff anymore?
I know.
And she's like, yeah, to make soap, all you need to do is this, that. And she's like, just like people going crazy, like all this stuff, people knew how to do way back when, before there were markets and grocery stores and shopping centers, and things like that. And it just really made me take a step back and just look like, you know what, Lord, you're right. I mean, yeah, she's right. Like, if all this stuff happened, we will still survive if you want us to survive. And if that meant going back to the quote unquote old way of doing things, then maybe we all be better for it.
I tell you, I want to live in the Little House on the Prairie era. I love that age. And I know it's really hard physically. I get that. But to me, it just seems, okay, so your grandma would probably argue with me, but it just seems relaxing. I chuckle. But it just seems relaxing to me because it seems like it's less mentally taxing. I think our lives nowadays are so mentally taxing from all the information and stimulation that's thrown at us all the time. Oh, I would love to go back to, that's why I always say I wish I was Amish, because then like you do things in community, you have work frolics, you have quilting bees, you have canning things where you don't have to do everything by yourself. You get to be, I'm the type of person who loves
community.
Yeah, I love to be in a crowd but silent. Like I love to watch, I love to observe, I love to maybe talk to the person next to me, but I love to like be the one holding the baby in the background, just watching everybody and listening to everybody. To me, that just fills me up. So I would have loved to meet your grandma and have a conversation.
Oh, yeah. Because it's like so awesome. And one of the things is that, like, I don't know if I was telling a friend or something one day, because what people don't know about me, okay, here's a little carrot insight. It's like, I love to watch homesteading shows. And people in today's time, but who still live kind of like my grandma lived, they live off the land type of thing, right? And they build their own homes, they make their own clothes, and they try to depend on today's conveniences as little as possible. Like they even get to the point to where they make their own tissue paper, toilet paper, all that stuff, right? Or have an alternative for it. And I love watching these type of homesteading shows. And I think I had mentioned to a friend one day about that, because if anyone knows Kara, they know that I am the opposite of a homesteader. Okay? It's like if anyone would not make it as a homesteader and just living off the land, it would be Kara. Okay? Because it's just not my thing. I don't hunt. I wouldn't know how to hunt. I don't even know if I could kill a squirrel for my food, and then cook it. I could probably, growing my own food, that wouldn't be an issue or a problem. But building my own house, living off the land, no vehicles, no telephone, or anything like that. And I love to watch how these people do it. And they make everything from their own butter to they have cows for their milk, so it eliminates, and they have cows also for their beef and chickens, meat, chickens, and laying hens, and and everything else. And they just kind of live off the land. And for some reason, I am so interested in those type of shows, and I just get so, I love them. And I'm just sitting there going, I don't know why I love them, because I'm not interested. I mean, I couldn't live a homestead. I mean, I could if the world had like an apocalypse or something like that, and I guess if I had to, at least I would know how to survive, because I've learned all the skills from watching the homesteading shows. But have you ever thought about being a homesteader?
Oh, absolutely. If I had a different life, that would be me, because like I said, the whole Amish, Little House on the Prairie.
Yes.
I would love that. But I also have to say, because I never, ever, ever want to take the blessings that God has given me for granted or make him think that I don't appreciate them. I am very for technology, because my heart is to be at home, and I would not be able to earn the living that I do at home without the technology that God has supplied. So yes, if I didn't have to earn my living on a computer, I would totally 100% homestead.
Oh, well, you would make your money by growing, or you don't grow animals, herding animals, selling them at market.
Oh, that's true. That's very true.
Yeah. And you would be quilting and making clothes for other homesteaders, and then you would sell those, and then you would take your eggs to like the little corner country store or something, and you would sell them for so much for the other people in the area. So you would still make money. It would just be a different way of making, money and different things like that, But honestly, my husband could do it in a heartbeat. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. He'd be out there fishing. We would have like fish more than once a week. We would have, bison, and all this other type of stuff. So he could do it, easily. But it's just a different world that we're living in. And we're just so grateful to just welcome everyone into 2023. This is going to be such a wonderful, wonderful year and for the podcast. And we're just going to help everyone find their journey to joy in 2023. And if this is your first time listening to the podcast, then we want to thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And wherever you're listening, because we're on all major podcasting platforms, then please hit the like and the subscribe button. And that way you know every time that we have a new episode. And it also helps our algorithm in those platforms to make us more noticeable when people are looking for good, positive, joy-filled, joycast, cheercast, and just things like that to just kind of uplift them. And speaking of uplifting, today's episode, the first episode of the year, is going to be about a word of the year. Like, has God ever given you, or have you ever prayed about having a word for the upcoming year? And that's exactly what we're going to be talking about in this episode. Is just having a word for a year, what it entails, how to go about praying for, I guess, a word for a year, and just seeing how it has blessed other people in the past. So, Sherry, you want to talk to us a little bit about that?
I would love to. This is one of my favorite topics. This and blessings journals, I think, go hand in hand. Probably because I always put my word of the year in my blessing journal. And it just really excites me. And I think the reason it excites me is because I think it was back in 2011, I was reading a blog of a fiction author, and she's the one that was talking about the word of the year. Now, she goes into way more depth about her word of the year, and I don't quite study it as much as other people do, but we all have different personalities. I'm a relational person more than a study research person. So to me, I like to get quiet with God, and I like to ask him, well, you gave me this word. What do you want me to learn from it? So anyway, so in 2011, I was reading one of her blogs, and she was talking about her word of the year. And I said, God, I want that. I said, God, would you give me a word of the year? Because you gave her one. Would you give me one? And this was back when I was really learning how to trust him, really learning that he wanted what was good for me, really learning that the true characteristics of God. Well, God, in his infinite, amazing love, he gave me a word. And the very first word he ever gave me was balance/moderation. And I know that's two words, but they're basically the same. And I think he gave that to me because, well, I know that God knows me intimately, and he knows that I am somebody who has a really hard time, one, saying no, saying yes to my best yes, and not yes to everything under the sun. And I love to do everything, like everything, well, not everything, but most everything excites me. So like I always say, I would love to be a 911 operator. I would love to work at a coffee shop. I would love to learn how to decorate cakes. I would love to work as a waitress. I would love to do all these different jobs, but they're not all my best yes. And so I think that God gave me that word first to teach me way back then, because I was just jumping into my the writing career, my ministry, what all that entailed. I still had, it was a big question mark of what God wanted me to do. At that point, I was still in the life that I was telling God my plans instead of asking him for his plans. I swear he laughed And I don't blame him, because I was like, okay, in 2 years, I'm going to be traditionally published. I'm going to just be writing books for a living. I'm going to make enough money that I can do that. I'm also going to volunteer at my kids' school. I'm going to have homemade chocolate chip cookies every single day for them when they come home. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'll have time to clean the house. And he just, I'm sure, was up there laughing, going, yeah, right, Sherry. And that is not how my journey has gone. And I'm so grateful, honestly, that my journey has not gone that way. But anyway, so he was teaching me from day one how to have balance, how to have moderation, so that I could not burn out. I didn't listen very well. I'm still working on balance and moderation. So that's another cool thing about the words of the year, is that God will give you, well, in my case, I'm talking about me. Everybody's different. Everybody's personal and individual. And I love that about God, that our relationship with him is not a one-size-fits-all, but he caters it to us and to our personalities, to where we are in our journey with him spiritually. There's never any shame. There's never any guilt. There's never any condemnation. You're not this far. You're not that far. God's like, I'll take you right where you are. I love it right where you are. I just love you. And so anyway, so I went through the year with the balance and moderation. I don't think I did a very good job learning it at that point, but he keeps bringing me back to it. So for me, I have to, some of the words that he gave me, I had to learn before he could introduce other words. And other ones, I think that he just keeps giving me reminders and keeps giving me checkups and tune-ups in the words when I start to fall short, when I start to go back to my default button, and that is trying to do everything for everybody, and it just doesn't work that way. Another year, he gave me the word grace, and I'll never forget that. That year, in April of that year, or March of that year, I guess it was March, my sister and I went out for dinner, and we didn't get to do that very often at all. So it wasn't like it was a regular occurrence. It was more of a special occasion. And she mentioned to me, she had mentioned throughout the years, oh, I applied for this job. Oh, I applied for this job. Never really thought anything of it. Well, when we were sitting at dinner, she said, oh, by the way, I applied for a job out in California. And the Holy Spirit spoke to me and said, she's moving. And I was like, no. She's the one that I actually moved with to Michigan many, many years ago. And so for the thought of her moving halfway across the country was devastating. But God gave me a choice. He said, Sherry, you have a choice to show grace in this situation, to make her leaving loving and kind and to give her your blessing, or you can be a brat about it. And so I'll never forget, that year was my year of learning grace. He also gave me the word joy. The year he gave me the word peace. And another thing I've learned about the words of the year, for me anyway, is that they build upon each other. And so I had to learn faith before I could learn joy, before I could learn peace, grace, before I could learn peace. The year that he gave me peace, he had already been working with me on trust. He'd already been working with me on faith. He'd already been working with me on joy. And I was volunteering at at one of our child's schools for the reading month. Again, it happened in March. And so I had gone in the afternoon, and this was very rare for me. Usually I would volunteer in the morning, but this time I happened to volunteer in the afternoon. And my husband was home that day, and I went in and I was starting to read the book. Well, they ended up having a lockdown because there was a potential bomb in the school. Well, we didn't know what the lockdown was about. We were just in the classroom, myself, the teacher, and these 26 kids. And I remember sitting there, and I remember praying God's peace over the classroom. And I remember thinking, okay, I don't know if this is real. I don't know if this is just a threat. I don't know if we really are going to possibly die, or if it's, just kids being kids and there's no immediate danger. None of us really knew. And I just remember praying peace over the classroom, asking God to bring his peace to it. And it was. I felt peaceful then. But the thing that was the most important, and the thing that I remember the most, is that God used that circumstance for me to show me, Sherry, you have the power and you have the authority that you can pray peace anywhere. So I remember praying anytime I would go and volunteer, praying over the classroom, praying peace in the classroom I was in the hallway, in the school building, praying peace in our home. And there is this, God really taught me that year what it felt like to have his unwavering, you can't even explain it. There we go. Unexplainable peace. God's unexplainable peace. And when you have felt it, you want it and you don't want to lose it. And it's one of those things where, like, when I was a kid and I wasn't married and I didn't even have a boyfriend, I would ask my mom, so how did you know you were supposed to marry Dad? And she's like, I don't know. You just know. And I'm like, well, I don't understand what that means. How do I know? And she was like, you just know. And so it's the same thing with God's peace. It's so unexplainable, but it's so complete and so full that once you've had it, you want it again. And you won't know you've had it until you have it. So if you want God's peace like that, then I highly encourage you to ask God for it, to give you that experience. And I'll tell you what, once you've had it, you'll never want to go back. It is that amazing. So he's had, back to the word of the year though. So he's given me so many amazing, wonderful words. I remember when I met my prayer partner, Annie, we started praying together. Well, we would pray for our words of the year together. And at first, when we were first together, she would have her own words, I'd have my own words. Well, then God started merging our words a couple of years. So one year we had Jehovah Jireh, Jehovah Rapha, provider and healer. And I'll tell you what, did we see his provision and his healing that year more than any other year? It was absolutely amazing. Another year, he gave me dual words too, victory and delight. Oh, I loved that year as well. But the past year, 2022, God gave me evangelize, prioritize, and testify. And sometimes I don't know what he means by the words that he gives me or what he wants me to do with the words that he gives me. So I just ask him. I'm just like, okay, God, what do you want me to do with this? What can I do to bring you glory out of these words? And prioritize sure was the right word for me for 2022 because God taught me and he started eliminating things in my life that weren't my best yet. He started helping me to shift away from certain relationships that weren't helpful and weren't bringing me more towards his calling and away from toxic relationships. God started doing so many wonderful things because you have to, at least I found for me, you have to give him room. You have to open up your time, open up your heart, open up your, take that time to heal, take that time to make room so that God can then fill your life with the things that he wants you to be filled with, the best yeses. We all have a calling, we all have a purpose, and we all have a destiny given from God. And if we don't give him room to put those things in our lives, then we'll delay the blessing of those, of the calling, of the purpose, and of the destiny. And he's really showed me that in 2022. And that's one of the things that I'm actually still working on is making the room for him, showing him or having him, letting him know that I trust him enough that when he's taking something out or he's allowing something to be done, that season is over, to not grieve it. Well, I mean, I might still grieve it a little bit, but to grieve it with hope, to grieve it with a sense of excitement, knowing that when he takes something away, that he's going to fill it with something even better. So, yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at right now. That's kind of, sometimes God will give me the word of the year really early. Some years I've gotten it as early as August or September. I usually start praying about it in the fall of the year that I'm in for the next year. And like I said, sometimes he'll give me the word right away. Sometimes he won't give me the word until later. So you will have to stay tuned. Sometime in January, I will put in the Facebook group what my word of the year for 2023 is. But I'm still kind of listening and hearing and seeing what it is that God wants to give me for this year. And it's never too late. I know it's already the beginning of January, but just because a few days of January has passed, don't let that think. Don't think that you have to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Don't think that the expiration date is come and gone. God can give you a word for the year in June. God can give you a word for the year in March. He can do more for you in a 6-month period of a year than he can in a 12-month period if you're honestly seeking him and you want to know what that year or what that word is. It's really all about relationship, and it's about growing the way that God wants you to grow, learning the things that God wants you to learn, and deepening that relationship with him. It's fun. Like, it's supposed to be something fun. So if you pray about it and you don't hear right away, don't be discouraged. For me, and this is just me, again, it's all personal. For me, I'll hear a word and I'll be like, okay, God, is this my word for the year? And he will always confirm it for me. I will see that word in various places multiple times. And then that's how I know that he's confirming that's the word. So grace, when he gave me the word grace that year, I saw the word and I said, okay, I think maybe this is the word that you're giving me. Could you confirm that for me, God? And I don't know, a week later, a couple of days later, I don't even remember, I was looking at a house on Facebook just because, I wasn't looking to buy a house. I was just looking at this house. And on a bathroom counter, there was a plaque that said grace. And I'm like, okay, first off, grace in a bathroom is really cool, but it's not like something that you would normally think you would see. So it wasn't like I was looking for it and it just popped out. So that's what God does for me. That's how he shows me and confirms with me the word. And one more not funny, haha, but one more story that I love to share is the year that God gave us, my prayer partner and I, the words Jehovah Jireh and Jehovah Rapha. I had been praying those words back to him. So at nighttime, as I'm quieting, we've talked last month about, or not last month, but we talked in November about how when I go to sleep at night, my mind is just racing. It's like a computer that won't shut down with all these windows open. And so one of the ways that I focus to get to the point where I'm relaxed and I give God all of my worries and issues for the day is I will repeat over and over again, Jehovah Rapha, Jehovah Jireh, Jehovah Shalom, Jehovah Rapha, Jehovah Jireh, Jehovah Shalom. I will be just saying back to him, you are my provider, you are my healer, you are my peace. You are my provider, you are my healer, you are my peace. And so when God gave us those 2 words for the year, I was like, oh my goodness. I shared that with my prayer partner, Annie. I said, I have been praying these words, these names back to God for years. And he gave them back to me as words of the year in one particular year. And I just thought that was really cool. So that's kind of my experience, Kara. What about you?
My experience is rather new, regarding that. So I'm kind of like learning from you and some of my other friends, who have been doing this for years, and it's like almost every January or February, they would share, what, this is my word of the year. This is the word I feel like the Lord is giving me, for the year, because they have sought it out with him. They have prayed about it, and things like that. And that's just not something that I think has ever crossed my mind to do. But if you're listening to this podcast and you have been doing this for a while, or you're new to it, or you're like, well, thanks, Sherry, for sharing that. That's something I think that I want to do, and that would kind of help me just how to look at the year, the coming months ahead, and like that. Then join us on Facebook. We have a Facebook group. It's Cheer Up Podcast on Facebook, and you just look under groups, and you should be able to find us, and you can click join. There are no questions or anything for you to join, and you could put in there, and you could just say, hi, my name is Susie, and my word of the year is this, or I'm still waiting on my word of the year, or my phrase of the year, or however you want to put it. And some of you may have also been doing this for a long time and be like, oh, yeah, I've been doing this since, I don't know, 1999, and so you may have like several words of the year. So if you do, and if you just want to join them and join in with others and join a Facebook group and then just kind of share them with others and just kind of see, because you never know, just like with Sherry and Annie and how their words kind of ended up going together, maybe everyone in the Cheer Up podcast group words can all go together. And wouldn't that be awesome as well? So, yeah, we just encourage you guys to really pray, think, seek out what the Lord has for you for that year, and share it if you would love to, in our Facebook group.
I completely agree. And one thing I forgot to share at the very, that I'll wrap up with at the very end is, for me, I like to put my word somewhere so that I remember it. And actually, now that I think about it, I didn't do that with my 2022 words, which is probably why I didn't focus on them as much. Shame on me. I'm smacking my hand because I should have done that. But when I had the word peace, I had a mug that had peace on it. When I had the word love, same thing. I had a mug, or I would get like a bracelet or a necklace, something that would just remind me throughout the year, sometimes a plaque, whatever. And that's just a personal thing for me. Other people love to study their word. They love to look up their word in its concordance and see how many times it's in the Bible and see what God wants to tell them about that word. So there's just so many fun things that you can do. You know what would be really cool, Kara, is if somebody did like a collage, like if they started and then every year they added to it. I remember,
wow, yes.
I think that would be really cool. I know one year I did it on I decked out my blessings journal, and I'm not usually one to deck out my blessings journal, but I just felt like God really wanted me to that year, and so I did. It was my Victory Delight year, and then the next year I put Jehovah Jireh and Jehovah Rapha on my next blessings journal. So every day when I go to write in my blessings journal, I have the word of the year looking at me, which is really kind of cool. So again, like Kara said, we invite you to come to the Facebook group, Cheer Up Podcast, and tell us what kind of things that you do with your word of the year. Do you study it? Do you buy something so that it's right there prevalent and you can see it all the time? What do you do? Because I love getting new ideas all the time about how to just really embrace what it is that God wants to tell me, because that's really bottom line what the word of the year is all about. What does God want to speak to me in this season of my life, and how can I grow? How can I use that to his glory? So John 16:33, these things I have spoken to you, that in me you may have peace. In the world you will have tribulation, but be of good cheer. I have overcome the world. God loves us so much. He knows that we will always have threats of C2, or not C2. I almost said C25K. I meant Y2K.
Yeah.
Although it is January, it's after the holidays, and C25K is getting you ready to run. So, that could be appropriate as well. But anyways, we will always have something like Y2K or something that is going to be worrisome or a trial in our life. But God says, I am here that you may have peace. You will have tribulations, you will have issues, but be of good cheer because I have overcome the world. What a wonderful, blessed message for us to remember in the beginning of January, the beginning of a brand new year. We have 12 months stretched out in front of us, and God already got it. He had it before we were even born, and he's got it now. So we can be of good cheer. We are so glad that you're here today. Come back next week because we're going to do an encore presentation of reflection and introspection. It's a podcast that we did earlier last year, and we loved it so much that we want to replay it again this year. We are so glad, like I said, that you're here. Have a great week, and we will talk to you next week. Bye-bye.